I was going to go out for a bit of a ride this morning. I was thinking about nipping down the canal. I haven't been down the canal towpath for ages. However, there's just too much rain in the air. It's not good. I think it's raining. If it brightens up later on, I might spend a couple of hours down the canal. But I thought, as we went through so many little floods yesterday, I'm wondering whether the water has got into all the cables. So I was going to check them out, give it a wash, give it a clean up, and lubricate everything, just in case the water's got into the bits and pieces. Okay, so had a bit of a wash, and just going around checking things really, and I just realised it was pointed out to me, Barry pointed it out, that on the smallest ring, on the smallest on the back gear as well, there's no tension. So I'm going to have to take 2 links out of there before we go on, and then by then the rest of it should be drier, and I'll pop the axles out and check the cables. There's no water in them or anything. So, taking a link out of a chain, again, there's no magic involved. All you need is the chain splitter, which you insert the chain in and literally screw it up and force the rivet out. That's all there is in it. And a pair of pliers to get the link off, and I use just a screwdriver just to put into the chain in here, just to hold it, make sure it doesn't slip down back down the tube. Okay, first off you find the link, and I put a little screwdriver in there just to stop the chain from going back. And you could actually put something in here just to take the pressure off. So I just put a box in there just to take the pressure off. And then what you do is you literally get the link like that, and if it won't come off, you put a little pair of these ball nose pliers either side of it and just give it a nip, and it should break the tension on it, and it should come out okay. Once you've counted back the 2 links, make sure it's snug in top of the splitter, and make sure that the dowel is in line with the rivet. That's the most important thing, and then tighten it up slowly till it pushes the rivet out. I don't know whether you can see that, but I've left the rivet in, and that's what you're pushing out with the tool, and that's the 2 links off. And then basically you put the link back in. So that's the link back in. So no magic was performed during this exercise. It's a very straightforward thing. And then I should have a little bit of tension, which I've now got, which I didn't have before. The actual arm was laying up against the top of the actual mechanism itself. Now it's given me a little bit more tension, and that was the 2 links out, so that should give me no problems now. It was actually slipping off the chain because there was no tension on there. So that's that little job done. Now we'll have a look at the greasing the bits and pieces. I have actually washed the derailleur. What I use is this spray here, and give it a really good soaking with a bit of card behind it, and then wipe it all down and let it dry off, and you usually find it works really nice and sweet after that. Cleans all the crap out of it basically. Yeah, when I've greased everything up and checked everything, I'll be using the chain lube to re-lubricate the chain again. I use this, it's quite a good one, this one. A bit expensive, but it's quite good. I know I've said it before, but you know, it really is essential that you take these out after a wet ride and give them a wipe down. You can tell that one's had a little bit of water in it from that flood yesterday. So just give it a wipe down and re-grease it. Don't take 2 minutes, and it will save you a lot of problems if it starts to go rusty. Again, remind you to use a cycle grease, not an ordinary grease, because ordinary grease has acid in it. These cycle greases don't. whilst you've got the wheel out, like up in the air, if you just get hold of the bottom of the wheel and just pull it out, in and out gently, or you can put one hand on the top and one hand on the bottom, just rock it backwards and forwards gently. And if there's any great movement in there, that means the bearings weren't looking at, but you get a slight movement in there sometimes as they get older. But as long as it feels smooth, and you can sometimes spin the wheel and put your fingers on the axle and you can feel whether the bearings are grinding, if they're smooth or not. But that's going really well, that one. You can tell the way that's just running on. And there's hardly any movement. There's a tiny bit of movement in there, but expect that after a couple of years. Actually, quite glad I took that one out, because that one is actually quite wet, so a little bit more attention on that one. Again, nice piece of grease on there, and get it back in. Again, I check for movement in the bearings. There's no movement in that one at all, and it's spinning quite well, and the disc brakes are quite free as well, not too bad. I'll give them a rub over later. Again, popping the axles out and lubricating them doesn't cost you anything other than a tube of grease, and will actually save you a lot of time and heartache. If you just leave them too long, they will rust in. I've had one rust in, and I think they're about 18 quid to replace the axles. They get too pitted, so for the price of maybe a quid for a tube and 5 minutes to pop them out, I recommend it. Also, I recommend that you split the tube apart and grease the actual bolt mechanism underneath here and clean it out. You'll find that it doesn't make so much noise. Sometimes it can make a little bit of cracking noise sometimes. If you clean them out and keep them well lubricated and tighten them up nicely, you've got no problem. But you want to lubricate it with a bit of bike grease on the locking mechanism. Another little check you want to do while you're going around doing this sort of thing is the ball joints. Either end, you've got 4 altogether. Make sure there's no play in them, and that's quite easily done. I can't do it with one hand, but just hold this end tight and then just rock the wheel backwards and forwards. And also you can actually rock them backwards and forwards with your hands, because they're like a ball joint. And if there's any excess movement in them, then you want to consider changing them. And there's no movement in these at all. That one's slightly loose, so I think that might want doing one of these days, but it's not too bad. This one does a lot of mileage, so I quite expect it really, but that's not too bad. There's a little bit of movement in there, that one, but there's no sideways movement on it, so not too bad. I've got spare ones of these. They're nice and tight, no problem at all. Well worth checking though. Also, you want to just check your tyres, just go round them bit by bit and make sure there's nothing, no splits in them, or anything sticking out of them, like a bit of flint or something. They do get torn. I've had to change mine now and again because there's been some nasty splits in there, but these are very good tyres, these Kojaks actually. I've had 2 sets on this bike, and they're brilliant. Very rarely get a puncture if you keep them at the right pressure. And I go over quite a lot of extensive surfaces, mainly road, but I do go off sometimes on it, as you've seen in some of the video. But it's well worth spinning these around carefully and just checking there's no flint in them or splits. Especially the back one, because I think the back one goes through more than the front one. This one is not too bad. I think I might be coming up for a change. This one looks a little bit flat edged, so might consider changing that one. At a later date, it's okay at the moment. I think that's a couple of months old, that one. Like I say, I do quite a lot of mileage, so I expect to wear them out. I'm going to have yet another whinge about these mud flaps. I do wish they wouldn't rivet the damn things on, or they're coming loose again. It won't be long till they get ripped off. And also the back one as well is getting loose. I like the mud flaps, they do help, but it is real pain that these are riveted on and you can't actually get the replacements, or ICE doesn't have the replacements. I keep meaning to look on eBay and see if I can get them, but they must make them, the company must make them for sale. But ICE, please stop riveting them on. Why don't you put a nut and bolt in there and we can change them quite easily. Tar. Lubricating the chain. Well, everyone you talk to has a different sort of method, or they've heard something, or they do it a different way, or this is the correct way or not way, but this is the way I do it. Whether it's correct or not, I don't care. Seeing this one, went through a lot of water yesterday, and I know the water got in the tubes, so she had a right drench in that chain, as you saw in the last video, going through all that water. So what I do is I give it a good drenching with that. I mean, I really soak it, I really pile it on, and then go through the gears as well. So, and then wipe it off, and keep wiping it off, and keep wiping it off until it's dry. And then I put the chain lube on, and do the same thing. I don't drench it, but just lubricate the centre of the chain, like so you don't have to lubricate the outside. And then give it a ride and wipe it off, because you don't need it wet. You need them as dry as possible, if you know what I mean. So the lubrication is actually inside the links of the chain. That's what you're lubricating, is that centerpiece, the little rollers. So if you can get water behind, if you can get oil behind them, or synthetic oil behind them, that's what you're after. What I do is, once I've drenched it in that TF oil, I just keep running it through. You can see the crap it's getting off. Just hold it like that and run it through a couple of times, and then put it onto a clean bit, and till it stops leaving all this gunk behind, and then you can lubricate it. I don't know whether it shows up, but there you can see that chain is nice and clean. It's not too bad, it's not leaving much grud on my fingers. So I've dried it all off. I'll leave it for a bit, and then actually put the lube on, and then like give it a wipe off, or give it a little run, and then wipe it off, wipe the excess off. You can actually just, I mean, I've in the past just used this to lubricate it, the chain, and I've never had any problem. Like I say, I use these because it sort of seems to last longer. But like I say, I don't think there is any wrong or right way. It's whatever works for you, really, as long as it's lubricated and it's dry and it's clean. You know, and you keep it lubricated, they last quite a long time. I've not had a problem with this one. It's like I say, this must be getting on for 2 years old. It's the same chain. And the other bike, because on one of the other videos, I think it was about 4 or 5 years old before I changed the chain. And it needed changing by then. It was just pure laziness, but it all went on okay. And it wasn't that hooked either. Another thing about cleaning your bike is, while you're cleaning it, and if you clean it intimately, I mean in depth, every nook and cranny, which I do, you can actually find out things that have gone wrong or might go wrong, or things that are not working properly. Plus I like a clean bike. It just look better. Come on, let's face it, you spent enough money on it, you might as well look after it. So yeah, it's you keep it clean, it looks after you. If you look after it, it will look after you, and they're so well made anyway. But like I say, you've spent enough money on it, you might as well keep it clean. But that's about it. I've just got to polish it now. I've cleaned it all over underneath the frame and everything, and yeah, so I've just got to run a soft cloth over it now and just buff it all up, and that'll be it. Except I've got to clean the seat, I just remembered. Yeah, the back of the seat needs cleaning off. So basically that's it till next week or so. Well, that's it, all nice and clean for its next journey, its next adventure. The sun's coming out, so I might take the other bike out for a ride down the canal yet. Time will tell.